Tsarnaev. I want to bring in a panel that we have here. We have Paul Callan, CNN legal analyst, with us. We have attorney Linda Kenny Baden, who is a member of the legal team for acquitted murder suspect Casey Anthony, and we have criminal and civil trial attorney Eric Guster. So, Eric, these questions came out about whether aiding and abetting are really different things. The judge said this is a singular concept, basically, and then this idea of conspiracy. Is conspiracy having to do with just one action that was taken in the course of this crime, or was it a sequence of events? When you heard about those questions, what did you think about where the jury was at?
I thought the jury was actually paying attention to the trial and really wanted to make sure he was guilty of every single count. This is what we call a long guilty plea in the criminal defense world. We know our client is guilty, but we're trying to save his life, and that's what the defense was trying to do. So what the jury wanted to do was make sure that he was guilty of every single count and really pay attention to the verdict to make sure they made the right decision, because this is literally a life and death situation for this young man.
This moves into the next phase, and this is where Judy Clark is going to be doing her work and trying to save him from the death penalty, from getting death. How does she argue that, and how does she make the case to this jury?
Well, from the beginning, I'm sure she has been working on mitigation, which she has to put forward as much mitigation evidence as she can. I'm sure there will be experts to talk about his childhood, to talk about his brother influencing him, and other people, in order to make sure that the jury understands that he was under the influence of his brother, and that may give them enough to not give him the death penalty.
So in a way, she's appealing to the humanity of the jurors, right? She is saying, you can punish him, you can give him life in prison, he will never see the light of day, but you don't need to kill him, essentially.
Yes, and that is all she has. Her case was built to reach the humanity side of these jurors. And just like what Paul said as well, you only have to reach one. You only have to reach one, and they knew that going into this trial that this was a case that he was going to be found guilty, but they wanted to save his life. And when they put this evidence up, and I'm sure that they got a little hope when the jurors asked about aiding and abetting, because that may show them that he may have been under the control of his brother, which is one of those mitigating factors that he was not the mastermind in this particular case, and it may save his life.
I wanted to jump in on one other thought, too, on this death penalty issue. One of the strongest arguments that I've heard articulated, even by people who support the death penalty against it here, is that as an Islamic radical, he wanted to die, all right? And if you put him to death, you're giving him essentially what he wanted, whereas putting him in a jail cell for the rest of his life might be the true punishment. That's the argument she's going to use.
Martyr at that point.
Yes, he makes himself.
That is that he didn't want to die. That's why he came out of the boat with his hands up and he didn't shoot.
That's what prosecutors will say. But
right.
you know,
it makes him a martyr if he dies for his cause. So giving him the death penalty may be exactly what he wants. I died for my cause. He's going to claim he's an Islamic radical. He's dying for his cause, which makes him a martyr. So that may be exactly what he wants in this case.
Judy Clark, by the way, had that in the Unabomber case. He wanted the death, but he didn't want her to say, you know, I want to live. So it's interesting how she'll handle that.
Can I ask you as well, seven women on the jury, right? So you would think that maybe one of the ways that Judy Clark, Jahar Tsarnaev's attorney might be able to appeal to them is to bring out Jahar Tsarnaev's mother, to appeal as a mother. And yet she's not someone who is going to convince this jury. She is someone who's been very outspoken, who feels that her sons were set up. That's not a tool that Judy Clark has in her chest, right?
That is right. She does not want to put up a witness who will actually help the prosecution, which his mother might, because she feels that he's been set up. But she's not going to be the type of person who may accept the guilty verdict.
Yes,
and that would go against.
On the other side is, imagine the jury hears a mother and says, what chance does this kid have with a mother like that? You know, that she's indoctrinated him. And you know, they've done focus groups on this. You don't try a case. They know what is going to appeal to a jury and what is not going to appeal to the jury.
Because
and I'm sure we're going to see that.
Cases are won and lost in jury selection.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes we focus in on one or two jurors who we think we can change, because it only takes one person to say, I will not vote for the death penalty, because that will be on that person's conscience forever.
And let me give you the flip side of the martyrdom argument. I said a lot of people would say put him to death because that's what he wants.
But let's say, so Sonny says that they're going to be very academic about it, and very possibly they may, but at the same time, is the question of whether you're putting someone to death, how is that necessarily an academic question? It's sort of an emotional pit of the stomach kind of question too, isn't it?
It is very emotional, and that's what the defense lawyers have to key in on. Because when you're talking to someone about the death penalty, that's a decision that once they vote the death penalty, they have to live with that decision for the rest of their life. And some people can't fathom the thought of being involved in taking another person's life. And that's what they're asking these jurors to do. And the defense just has to get that one juror who says, I cannot do that. I mean, but he does have an uphill battle, really an up mountain battle, because he maimed and killed children. Once you hurt the babies,
and also
you have problems.